Hello and welcome to this maiden edition of the program Issues in the Niger Delta, coming to you from the Port Harcourt station of Africa Independent Television. My name is Mahmoud Akuga. On this program every week, we shall be taking a look at the issues affecting Nigeria's Niger Delta region. A lot has been said and a lot has been written about the Niger Delta region and its peoples. From 1958, when of course oil was discovered and exploration activities started in the Niger Delta region, till today, so much has happened in terms of crisis, in terms of attempts to develop the region. Has the oil itself been a curse or a blessing to the people? After several decades of oil exploration, what's happening in the Niger Delta region today? Well, all Nigerians knew what happened a few years ago when this region, of course, was plunged in turmoil, when we had several militants all trying to draw attention to this region in terms of attracting development to the Niger Delta region. Well, after all that, the amnesty program was introduced. It's ongoing, it's on course, but how is it faring today? Other attempts to bring the region out of its state of lack of development were the establishment of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, as well as the Ministry of Niger Delta. A lot of development came to the region in the NDDC. A lot of people will tell you that that was way back a few years ago. What is happening to that commission today? Well, this program, of course, will be bringing out all those issues week after week. Also, a full ministry was created, the Ministry of Niger Delta. What's happening to the ministry? What are they doing? What projects are they embarking on? What kind of human capacity development are they involved in? This program will be going into all the several issues, investigating the issues in the Niger Delta, of course, bringing them into focus week after week. But for this week, the issue in focus in the Niger Delta today is the Ogoni. Again, Ogoni is in the news. 2 days ago, they were at the presidential villa to talk to Mr. President over issues surrounding the August 2nd, 2012 declaration of self-government by Dr. Godswill Digbo. Well, we shall be looking at the Ogoni crisis, trying to go back a little bit in time to let us all know how we eventually got to where we are today as regards the Ogoni issue. It's an oil-producing community that complained of a lack of devastation to their area as a result of shale exploration activities in their land. Well, let me also quickly, at this point, introduce to you Dr. Meshach Karanwi, who is Secretary of the MOSOP Provisional Council. MOSOP, of course, stands for Movement for the Survival of Ogoni People. Welcome to AIT.
Thank you for having me.
All right, but to set the tone, let us quickly go to a report that details a little bit the beginning of the struggle. And we have two of those reports, one from Tekena Milfori, but we shall take the one right now from Tiena Beso BBA to lead us and help us understand a little bit about the Ogoni struggle.
The Ogonis are a distinct ethnic group inhabiting the coastal plains of Nigeria's oil-rich Niger Delta region. The people had enjoyed a relatively peaceful life as farmers and fishermen until 1958, when crude oil was struck in Bomudere in Ogoni land. Just like in other oil-bearing communities of the Niger Delta, the oil windfall had little or no positive impact on the socio-economic well-being of the people, as evidenced in the absence of basic infrastructure and social amenities in Ogoni land. Besides being faced with widespread poverty occasioned by neglect and deprivation, the Ogonis also had to contend with several ecological issues arising from oil exploration and exploitation in their land.
The blame squarely falls on the collaboration between oil companies in Nigeria, especially Shell, and the Nigerian government. They are making so much resources from terrible practices, terrible environmental practices in the Niger Delta. But unfortunately, while they are making resources, while they are generating so much wealth from this region, the lives of the people have gotten from worse, from bad to worse.
The inability of the Nigerian government and the multinational oil companies to address the ecological and developmental issues in Ogoni land gave rise to agitations by the people, who were vocal in their demand for environmental and social justice. Royal Dutch Shell, which the Ogonis accused of championing unfriendly environmental practices, was forced to pull out of Ogoni land in the height of the agitations in 1993. 2 years later, environmental rights activist and writer Ken Saro-Wiwa, who was in the forefront of the Ogoni struggle, was killed in what was described as the climax of extrajudicial killings by the military regime of the late General Sani Abacha. The killing of Ken Saro-Wiwa notwithstanding, the Ogoni struggle continued unabated. However, signs of an end to the agitations were reflected in the recently released United Nations Environmental Programme report, which recommended immediate and massive cleanup of the Ogoni environment, an exercise that is expected to be carried out within 35 years. 1 year after the submission of the report, the Ogonis are worried that nothing is being done to implement the UNEP report.
The UNEP report has been given out for how many months now? Nothing happened. Even when they constituted that panel, no Ogoni man was included. These are some of the things that they are doing that is not good. And as a typical Ogoni man, we continue to struggle for it, and we'll ensure that our struggle will come to pass.
I do not see how the Ogonis will sit down and allow oil production to resume without a resolution of the issues about what has happened to our environment, especially when the United Nations have raised the issue of how urgent it is to address the human health issues that have been raised. I will not feel comfortable that any issues or even the talks about oil production can commence with the Ogoni people without a resolution of that. So it's in every person's interest that that issue should be dealt with right now.
Just when the Ogonis are still bemoaning the federal government's complacency in implementing the UNEP report, Goodluck Debo, a frontline Ogoni activist, on August 2, 2012, declared Ogoni as a sovereign nation in faraway Netherlands, a move that has since rippled controversies in Nigeria. Historically, the first step towards self-rule by the Ogonis was taken in August 1990, when the chiefs and people of Ogoni signed the Ogoni Bill of Rights, which, among other things, proposed the political control of Ogoni affairs by Ogoni people. This latest move has, however, been described by analysts as taking a struggle too far.
What they have done is treasonable. And, of course, the federal government should not treat it with kid gloves. So that, again, it will not be said that the way some people were treated in the past as regards this kind of matter is different from the way some other people are being treated. I know that the Ogoni people have been seriously shortchanged. They have cried out loud. Even now the UNEP report, the government has not come in to seriously implement it and do justice. As it should be. But then it will be going too far to declare self-rule. Because now we have one constitution, we have one president, we have one country, and what we can do is to see how we can better the place, not to destroy it.
At a time when there is an increased campaign for a united and indivisible Nigeria, only time will tell whether or not an Ogoni sovereignty is feasible. Sienna Besso, PBA, AIT News, Port Harcourt.
Well, you're still watching issues in the Niger Delta. And a report there from Sienna Besso, BBA, trying to detail the struggle of the Ogoni people. We told you earlier on that August 2nd this year, of course, Dr. Goodluck Digbo declared self-rule for the Ogoni people. Well, a group of Ogoni leaders were in the villa, the Aso Rock Villa, on Monday to reassure Mr. President that there was no attempt by the Ogoni people to secede from Nigeria. Well, also at this time, let me quickly introduce another of our guests who's just joined us, an Ogoni environmentalist, civil rights activist, Mr. Celestine Akpobari. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and to let our viewers know that by the end of this package also, we shall be taking a very short clip, the short documentary on the situation of power in River State. We'll come to that very shortly. But Dr. Karanwi, you saw the report that one of our correspondents just put together. Now, all these activities, the self-declaration, the declaration for self-government, and your people going to the villa to assure Mr. President that does not translate to secession. What for you is the driving force behind one of your sons, Dr. Digbo, and his declaration?
Well, Digbo's declaration, I cannot speak for Digbo. I don't know what his motives are. I haven't seen him for many, many years. And even some of the pictures that they publish of him in the magazines, I've seen doctored pictures, using his picture taken in some obscure place and posting it on a previous picture taken of people. I don't know whether those who have reported these things and shown pictures on the internet, using pictures on the internet, they can't tell us they took any of those pictures. And but anyway, I don't know what his intentions are. I'm not so sure that the only reason that the Ogoni delegation went to the villa was over the Digbo issue. And we are surprised how people are taking this whole issue of Digbo's declaration. If you ask my opinion, I think it was a declaration of madness. When Ogoni people take decisions, they are civilized people. They know how to press their demands. They know strategies to adopt under the non-violent doctrine in pursuing our grievances and pursuing our objectives. We will have a cross-section of our people. We have Council of Chiefs. We have the Council of Professionals, the youth and everybody. The Ogoni people take collective decisions. They are very egalitarian people, very democratic, and people don't love things over them. Now to have one individual come out in cyberspace to make announcements without any consultations. Now I'm the secretary of the Mossop Professional Council. Now that is the only authentic body to speak for Mossop at this time. We are not aware of any faction anywhere. You have faction where somebody broke away from the executive and from another one. Digbo was never a member of the immediate past legitimate executive. And we don't
but he was a member of the old Mossop executive.
Ago, but you see now, and he did a few things. But see, just like the Bible says, if you do right, God will reward you. But even if you've done right for a long time and then you turn into evil, you will be punished for it. Now, we are embarrassed by this kind of declaration, the declaration of madness. There was no gathering, there was no rally in Ogoni to launch the so-called self-rule.
Yes.
Everything is going on the way they've been. Pressmen have gone there, they haven't seen anything, they haven't seen him, nobody has gone anywhere to speak on it. It would have been nice to have him here to tell us the intentions. I think this is a calculated attempt to destabilize the movement, and to embarrass people for whatever reasons that he has. See,
okay.
Yes.
All right. We have another Ogoni son here, Celestine Akpobari. I don't know. Dr. Karanwi has characterized it as a declaration of madness. I don't know, from your own point of view, as also an Ogoni son as well, involved in the environmental rights pursuit. For you, what does it translate to? If you look at the Ogoni Bill of Rights, you will see that, of course, there is talk for the pursuit of self-emancipation and devolution of powers. So for you, what does it translate to?
Yeah, my brother Mahmoud, we must tell ourselves the truth. In the first place, Nigeria is an artificial country. We have over 250 different distinct ethnic nationalities in Nigeria with different languages. Ogoni is just one. And you will agree with me that right now, the Ogoni language is going extinct. we are a distinct ethnic nationality. Even in Rivers State, where we claim to be in the majority, we are not. And so, political autonomy, this is the time. I mean, I was not with Goodluck Digbo when the declaration was made, but I can say that that guy was one person that came mentioned in his book A Month and a Day. In fact, he was the first person to be declared wanted by Sani Abacha after Ken was arrested. He was the leader of NICOP then. And at the heart of the Ogoni struggle,
NICOP will mean the youth?
National Youth Council of Ogoni people.
Okay.
Goodluck Digbo was the president of NICOP after the time Ken was arrested. In fact, the government of Como and Abacha alleged that the Goodluck Digbo actually murdered this man. So to say that he has never been part of us is a lie. We must tell ourselves the truth if we move forward. There were two factions of Mosop in Ogoni land. In fact, now there are three now.
Three factions of Mosop?
Right now as I speak, because one just broke out recently. But there were two
factions.
Because Ledumite overstayed his welcome. Ledumite was supposed to stay in office as Mosop president for 4 years, according to the constitution of Mosop. But he ended up staying 17 years. And he never moved Ogoni forward. We saw the INC, Joint National Congress, moving forward, conducting elections. So we decided to create another faction that will be democratic, that will implement the legitimate demands of Ogoni people as enshrined in the Bill of Rights. I was part of that faction, of course, because Ledum has overstayed welcome. There was nothing to show for the 17 years. I tell you, the last project we have in Ogoni land was the polytechnic that late Abba Bade brought. Nothing has come into Ogoni, not even one NDDC project. Ledumite could not influence nothing. Even the Senator Magnus Abe, that is making noise now, claiming to be a spokesperson for Ogoni people. He was the APP candidate in the House of Assembly in Rivers State. He was the minority leader, but he ended up even speaking, popularizing more than even the majority leader, the speaker. And he was elevated, maybe promoted, converted into PDP, and given a commissionership appointment from where he became SLG and now the senator. One project, even a borehole, you are not influencing to Ogoni land. So we need to change. And so political autonomy was at the heart of the campaign of Late Ken Saro-Wiwa, that if the government of Nigeria was not ready to respond to our legitimate demands, if the oil companies were not ready to respond to our legitimate demands, then we have no option to stay on our own because we are a distinct ethnic nationality.
But within the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously both parties, of course, agree that there's no talk about a secession from Nigeria. We have the reaction of Dr. Goodluck Digbo himself. I'm sure we'll be able to take that reaction. He's very happy with the visit to the villa, and he says that the leaders who went to the villa did not outrightly condemn his call for self-rule. But let us, Akpobare talked a lot about Ken Saro-Wiwa. Maybe it's time to hear Ken Saro-Wiwa, and we'll hear him now in this report, again looking at the Ogoni struggle and the attempt now again by the Ogoni people to talk with the federal government of Nigeria. Tekena Amiofori has that report.
The emergence of the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people in 1990 was in response to the pitiable living condition of the Ogoni people. Particularly worrisome at the time was an untold environmental degradation occasioned by decades of crude oil production in the area. The federal government and Shell Development Company, which began operations in Ogoni land in 1958, were accused of prosecuting an ecological war against the people.
Indigenous people have been treated through laws such as are operated in Nigeria today, through political marginalization. They have driven certain people to death. That happened in America and in Australia. They're trying to repeat it in Nigeria, and we do not want it. In recovering the money that has been stolen from us, I do not want any blood spilt, not of an Ogoni man, not of any strangers amongst us. We are going to demand our rights peacefully, non-violently, and we shall win.
The people's non-violent resistance to perceived oppression was crushed by the late General Sani Abacha-led junta, which executed Ken Saro-Wiwa and other freedom fighters in 1995. This action immediately generated bad blood between the Ogonis and the federal government. Shell was not spared, as it was sent packing from Ogoni land. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo, upon Nigeria's return to a democratic regime in 1999, opened talks with the Ogonis, apparently to reconcile them with the federal government and Shell. Renowned clergyman Bishop Matthew Kuka was mandated to reconcile the people with their perceived oppressors.
A summary of my effort in bringing about peace, and to finally recommend that when this job is completed, the federal government of Nigeria, the government of Rivers State, the people of Ogoni will have to sit around a table to discuss their future. I'm not unaware of the bitterness of the past, but I think it's important for us to realize that the world is moving.
Peace talks eventually led to an agreement that saw the need for environmental restoration in Ogoni land. The United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, was invited to undertake an environmental assessment of the area with a view to providing solutions. After working for a period of 14 months, UNEP sent its report to the presidency in August 2011, indicating that pollutions attendant on decades of crude oil production had permeated Ogoni land beyond imagination. It therefore recommended immediate action to prevent an escalation of a fragile situation, to which the federal government responded after several months. The impression for close watchers, including the international community, was an abdication of responsibility on the part of the federal government and Shell.
The livelihood of the people of the community has been ruined. I met the family and I saw it as well. I'm going to start crying. I'm sorry. It has hit me deep in my heart. Now, we were on the boat and we spoke to the family, and they had been fishing all day, mother, 3 children, all day looking for periwinkle. They find nothing. They find nothing. So what do? They cut wood. They cut wood so they can sell it to firewood for 10 to 15 naira. That is 5 to 10 euro cents. And she has a family of 7 children at home, and she has to feed that family with that money. And going back towards the end of the day, every boat I pass, every boat, 10, 15 boats, every boat filled with firewood. No fish, firewood. And to see that and to know that that is the way people are trying to survive, it makes me crazy.
I feel responsible for this disaster. I am Dutch. Shell, one of the companies, but the main company that is responsible for this, is also Dutch. So I feel responsible. The world we live in is partly based on this disaster, and that's why I feel responsible. We, the Dutch people, profited by it, and you suffered from it. So I think we must stop this.
As the Ogonis resumed talks with the federal government, Nigerians have underscored the need to bring injustice in Ogoni land to a logical end.
It is a shame that we had to wait for a body, a panel put together by the United Nations before we knew that we have to respond to issues such as the devastation of the Niger Delta.
The importance of this issue is the volume and the weight and the extent of degradation that has arisen as a result of long-term neglect by the major actors in the oil and gas sector. So, our expectation is that concrete plans should be put on ground and effectively commence in articulating whatever plans that have been laid down. In
addition to environmental justice, the Ogoni people of Nigeria's Niger Delta are pushing for an equitable share of the country's political and economic resources. Tekena Amiayofori, AIT News, Port Harcourt. AIT News, Port Harcourt. AIT News.
Well, Tekena's report there, still again looking at the Ogoni issue. Very ironic for Ken Saro-Wiwa, a man who preached non-violence. Non-violent means to achieving his aim, was violently, of course, executed by the government, the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Well, let's quickly take a look at the highlights, some of the highlights from the Ogoni Bill of Rights at this time. The Ogoni Bill of Rights. And now, Dr. Karawi, I mean, one of the first points there on our highlights of the Bill of Rights is political control of the resources in Ogoni land. How is that really different from the Declaration of Self-Rule and political autonomy?
Yeah, if you want, there is what is generally called self-determination, and you have to, if you get confused about the various aspects of it, you need to school yourself in finding out what they really mean. Self-determination comes in so many ways. Now, the self-determination Ogoni people are asking for, the political autonomy Ogoni people are asking for, is an autonomy that recognizes what Ogoni as a distinct and separate people, and they are given a political niche within a geographical expression called Nigeria, where they should be able to control a fair share of the resources and use a fair share of the resources for the development of their people. The autonomy guarantees them freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and freedom to be able to determine what happens in their own environment. Now, that kind of self-determination or autonomy is what you find in the Ogoni Bill of Rights. Now, those who do not know about what different kinds of self-determination mean may, in ignorance, accept any declaration they hear. We talk about self-rule. We are proclaiming a nation. We are proclaiming a sovereign nation. And I'm telling you, Ogoni people have not come together any day to make any such proclamation and to think that it is right for any individual to emerge from any place and declare sovereignty or autonomy in that light on behalf of a people without consulting them. If you think that is right, I do not agree with that. That's why I call it a declaration of madness.
But it wasn't a declaration of sovereignty. It wasn't a declaration of independence. Yes, and political autonomy. It was a declaration of political autonomy.
Igbo can explain what he meant. Did you see? As far as I'm concerned, so much fuss has been made of this thing. A storm in a teacup and all of that. The autonomy Ogoni people asked for is there in the Ogoni Bill of Rights. This is a diversion of attention. The federal government needs to address the issues in the Ogoni Bill of Rights. It's been submitted to the government since 1990. Non-violently, we pursued these objectives. We've remained repressed. In fact, because of this Ogoni Bill of Rights and our struggle, the Ogoni people have been singled out for punishment. You talk about ministry of this one, created to ameliorate problems in Niger Delta. We don't experience any of those benefits. We are singled out for punishment. This is a diversion. We need to discuss the issues raised. The UNEP report is just what came recently. The Ogoni problem is beyond UNEP. It's beyond what they are talking about. If somebody declares self-rule, I'm saying Ogoni people are not aware of that. But the autonomy we demand, we are demanding it, and we can continue to pursue it. That we need to be able to have control over our resources and benefit from our resources. The kind of government is running this country, slow federalism, it does not help us who are minorities. Now, So
in other words, we need to get back to resource control for you and your Bill of Rights. That's what you...
The resource control.
Yes.
And the resource control we are talking about here in the Bill of Rights, it isn't that we want to just take everything for ourselves. Government should have laws that guarantees the owners of resources who have stake in it to benefit from it. Now, if the government of Nigeria we are run as a limited liability company. Ogoni will be a major shareholder to determine who becomes the CEO, the president, and all that. Yeah. But they come take the oil. We don't know what they do with the money. We protest over the environment declaration, and we are punished and shot and killed for it, and all of that.
All right. Celestine Akpobari, what's your take on this? For a lot of people, there's a lot of difference between what Digbo did and the Bill of Rights. You talked about 250 ethnic nationalities in Nigeria, and the Bill of Rights talks about devolution of power through federalism. With, the visit to Mr. President, from what you got out of it, does it look to you like there was emphasis again on the Bill of Rights? Because he talks about the federal government needs to address the issues in the Bill of Rights. Do you see some kind of deviation?
Well, I think that we need to move forward because we are human beings. We are not dead woods. If we submitted a Bill of Rights to a government that claimed to be representing the people since 1990, and they have never even given you an acknowledgement letter, then that government is not ready to listen to you, and you must take their destiny in your own hands. UNEP report, as far as I'm concerned, is a death sentence. A report that tells you that your land is dead, and that it will take 30 years to clean it up, and that your waterways will take 5 years, that is 35 years to clean it up, and that you have 8-centimeter layers of oil on every water that you drink, and that there is benzene in your water, and that the water you drink is worse 900 times above levels recommended by the World Health Organization, and 1,000 times worse than the water recommended to be taken in this country, then such a people is sentenced to death. What they eat is poison. The air they breathe is poison. The water they drink is poison. Their livelihood is dead. The people are walking corpses. And we must come to terms with it. And somebody is sitting in Abuja and always thinking about the 30 oil wells in Ogoni land. They don't want to know about what the people are suffering. Dan Juma that stays in his bedroom to declare that he has so much money that says $1 billion on my oil well does not even feed it 1 pen of negative consequence of oil exploration. And we should sit down and watch some bastards in Abuja.
Celestine, mind your language. Please. No, you have to mind your language.
What we are saying is that we are angry, we have been pushed to the wall.
Yes, I understand your anger, but your language must be civil.
Yes, okay, leave that. In the Ogoni Bill of Rights, the very first point, Ken called them the 10 wise men. Those that signed the Bill of Rights. Ken Saruwa called them wise men. The first demand was political autonomy, that political control of Ogoni affairs by Ogoni people. So Amechi cannot stay in Port Harcourt and steal all the land in Ogoni land and publish it in the newspaper that poor Ogoni people cannot read. Say, don't come near this land, government are taking, don't come near this land. It cannot happen in a place where the people are in charge of their destiny. We have been pushed to the wall. The oil in our land has been stolen for 30 years, nothing is put back. The game we had was the execution of all the leaders we had. In fact, you only know about Ogoni 9 and Ogoni 10. I tell you, over 300 people died in Ogoni. People were executed by fishing on the street. So it is high time we implement what our fathers
died. The Ogoni Bill of Rights.
Yes.
Okay.
We implement it.
All right. Let's, at this point in time, get back to Abuja, where, of course, the Ogoni leaders went to visit Mr. President in Abuja on Monday. We'll take a report now from our State House correspondent on that visit to Mr. President.
Of Nigeria's South River State have gone through a series of challenges, especially that of environmental degradation. So a few days ago, when the media was awash with reports of the succession of the Ogoni people in the 4 local government areas of the state, many thought the die was cast. A delegation of Ogonis, which include academicians, politicians, and other distinguished personalities, say they still believe in Nigeria.
It is important that Nigeria remains a united country that is committed to justice for all persons. And that is what the Ogoni people have always been fighting for. And that is what we're still fighting for. And that is part of what we came to discuss here today with Mr. President.
The Ogoni people also expressed dismay at the non-implementation of the United Nations Environmental Protection Agency UNEP report.
There were issues that we brought to the attention of Mr. President, particularly as it relates to the implementation of the UNEP report, the delay in the implementation, the mode of implementation, the issue of consultation. We also discussed the procedure for resumption of oil exploration of activities in Ogoniland. And also there are other issues that had to do with our youths and women and generally the things that are important to us.
The Senator Abe-led delegation also called for cancer screening and treatment of the people who the UNEP report say are susceptible to cancer. They also called for compensation from Shell Petroleum Development and the federal government, as well as the divestment of surveillance of oil pipeline that passed through Ogoniland on indigents. It was understood that the president, who retired to a closed-door meeting with the leadership of Ogoni, promised to expedite action on the UNEP report. And Noyoyo Ogiagboge, AIT News, Abuja.
Well, the Ogoni people with President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Before I go ahead, I must apologize for the outburst of one of my guests there who was, of course, a little bit overtaken by emotions just now. And he, I'm talking about Celestin Akpobari, and he also talked about the Bill of Rights which had been submitted for several years and nothing has been done about it. Let's hope that the same intention for which President Goodluck Jonathan asked to see the Ogoni people and saw them and discussed with them, that he will follow through on that, and the Ogoni people, of course, will begin to receive attention in the solving of their problems one after the other. Now, what do other Nigerians think about what is happening in Ogoniland? 250 ethnic groups, so many of them also in the Niger Delta, some of them smaller than the Ogonis, some of them also having the same problems with oil exploration in their communities, but not as outspoken, not as vocal as the Ogoni people. Yeah? Some of them are even in very, very terrible condition as we speak. What do other Nigerians think about what is happening to the Ogoni people? We bring you this Vox Pop from our correspondent.
1 year after it received the report of the United Nations Environment Programme on Ogoni oil disaster, the federal government has finally resumed talks with the Ogoni people. Interestingly, the ongoing dialogue is coming at a time factional leader of the movement for the survival of the Ogoni people, Goodluck Idigbo, has called for self-rule for the Ogonis. What are the expectations of the Ogoni and their counterparts in the Niger Delta?
When you have several segments of the society calling for self-determination, shows that they've been forgotten when they are told to go and clean the environment. And the federal government basically refused to hearken to those calls and to listen to the UN report, to act as a responsible nation, and even start implementation of the report. Obviously, again, it shows ineptitude in leadership, and more people, not just Ogoni people, are calling for cessation.
I'm glad to hear that the MOSOP leaders, led by Senator Magnus Abe, was with His Excellency yesterday, the President of Nigeria, to dissociate themselves from that declaration. So I support the delegation to Mr. President for crying out to tell Nigerians that they are not part of that selfish act. To me, that act, that singular act, is selfish and can lead to chaos.
Goodluck Idigbo is not far from the truth. I think it was led by provocation. That provocation, who did it? The federal government is the cause of the provocation of that word. It is the federal government that led the job people to Kayama and did the Kayama declaration. That we do not want to secede, but we want to control our resources. If every part of Nigeria is controlling resources, you understand, Nigeria would have been a situation of a unitary government in like some. So we are saying that there should be federalism. So asking for regional autonomy, asking for an environmental autonomy, asking for social autonomy has nothing to do with reasons.
The young persons in Ogoni are speaking with the same voice with our leaders, that we remain committed to the unity of the nation Nigeria, We are, however, like other federating units, have our misgivings as to how the nation state has treated issues concerning the federating units. We are agitating, we are at the forefront of agitations for implementation of the INEP report. We want participation in all ramifications. We are well represented at the local councils, at the state assemblies, at the National Assembly, where we have a vocal voice. And we believe that the democratic...
Some reactions there on the Ogoni issue. Well, we had an email response when we tried to get in touch with Dr. Goodluck Digbo, and in his email response, he said, after the visit to the president, he said that he was satisfied with the outcome of the meeting and reaffirmed that the Ogoni leaders did not disown the Ogoni Self-Government Declaration of August 2012. He also said that the visit has enabled Mr. President to understand the commitment of the Ogonis to take their destiny in their hands and not to be treated as third-class citizens in Nigeria. And that he's currently in New York to continue exploring opportunities to consolidate the Ogoni self-government as authorized by the United Nations Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People of September 2007. All right, let me just give you very quickly, my guest is 30 seconds. What would be your last word on this issue? 30 seconds.
First of all, I want to commend the Senator for the effort to arrange for this meeting and so on. But the greater thing is to come on a round table with Ogoni people, the federal government, to discuss the issues in Ogoni Bill of Rights. Because that was the essence of the struggle in the beginning. Okay. We need to do that so that we know how to go forward.
Okay, Celestine, just 30 seconds, very quickly.
Yeah,
last word.
I want to tell the federal government of Nigeria that they murdered innocent people in Ogoni a few years back that committed no offense, that having oil.
Okay.
I also want them to know that they have destroyed a once vibrant and very beautiful environment and livelihoods of over 1.2 million people. And that the earlier they respond to the Bill of Rights, the better for the country. And they should forget our oil. That one is non-negotiable. Our oil should remain under the ground. Final.
All right, thank you very much. At this point in time, we have to go to a sponsored clip now, the situation of power in Rivers State. A lot has been said. Remember that the Rivers State government promised uninterrupted power by December 2012. And a lot has been done already. We go to that clip now from the Ministry of Power.